I would like to thank Fred and Acha for organizing this conference. They have done very well. I was one of the very few honest people in this room who admitted that the main reason why they came for this conference was to see Addis Ababa. I have seen it, and I have thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I hope that the next conference is in Addis Ababa next year as well. I want to admit to feeling rather guilty about being asked to speak to you, and that is because the action that made me notorious in Nigeria was that I was the first person to own 51% of a major bank in Nigeria. I was the first person to stage a hostile takeover. After staging the hostile takeover, I discovered that the accounts of the bank were in fact a novel of fiction, had a very tenuous relationship with reality. I was so upset with all the people who had been working there for so long, so I took the decision to fire everybody above 55. I have never questioned that decision until this year when I turned 55. So I hope you understand why I feel a sense of guilt in being invited by a group of people under 40 as a 55-year-old to share my experiences and give you wisdom. I therefore want you to react to my talk in the same way as my wife reacts to my views, which is a spirit of unimpressed and undeceived respect. Now, I'm going to talk about three things: courage, I'm going to talk about fraternity, and then I'm going to end with the state. So I want to start with courage. Now, a very famous general who was rather short, and I suspect had a difficult love life, speaking to some cadets at a military school, made the following observation that never left the cadets. And I want to share with you that observation. He said, "God did not give me a face that would light a smile on the face of a single woman. Neither did God give me a chest that will strike fear in the hearts of a single man. But God gave me three things. First, a mind that thinks precisely. Second, a body that does not know the limits to work. And most important of all, God gave me courage. God gave me a heart that never gives up and a spirit that never falters. With that courage, I will win all my battles." If there is a mistake that our generation has had, or if there is a weakness that we have, it is that, in my view, while my generation was professionally successful, while my generation was academically brilliant, while I think we brought up good children, while I believe that we contributed a lot to our countries, we lacked two things: imagination and courage. I have no doubt in my mind that you, the generation that's following us, has great imagination. You are dreaming and thinking of things that we never did. We accepted very much the dreams that our fathers and our mothers gave us. You are thinking for yourselves and dreaming dreams that they have not given to you. If I have a question about you all and about us, it is about the fact of courage. And let me explain to you why I say that to you. Whenever I meet one of a highly educated African in their 30s, they start by telling me they're delighted to meet me. We've heard so much about you. We're thinking of going back to Africa, and we want to do great things. If I visit their house, there is usually in their library Mandela's book entitled The Long March to Freedom. After they've spoken to me for a while, I can tell that the book that they intend to write is The Short Sprint to Prosperity. After they have described their plans, I can tell what their real thoughts are. And let me just describe them. Ideally, they'd like a job in a very prestigious company. McKinsey would do. They would like a bonus. The McKinsey bonuses are rather small, therefore they'd like a bonus from Goldman Sachs. They would like a dollar salary in a low-cost African country. They would like a nightlife such as is in Paris, as many servants as a successful Nigerian has, temperature like Miami, a beach like Brazil, and they would like somebody else other than themselves to create what they call an enabling environment to allow them Ladies and gentlemen, it is not your job to wait for that enabling environment. It is your historic responsibility to create it. It is your job to have the courage to make the changes that are necessary in your society. I do not say it is easy, but I say to you that the only way to achieve success in our countries and for ourselves and for our children is if we're willing to take the necessary risks, to embrace the dangers, not to hesitate, and to be bold. Being bold and not taking risks is achieved at many levels. But the people who founded ALA were themselves, in their own way, very bold. They could have attempted to fulfill the dream that I have just discussed, but they instead took the very bold decision to start a school that had a great probability of failure, that had a great chance to be laughed at if they failed, but they instead persevered against tremendous odds, and it is for their courage and for their vision that we are here today. I commend to all of you, and I hope that all of you shape your own dreams, act with boldness, be not afraid, because it's the only way in which we will make this African century our own century and not have you have to come here in 25 years' time to repeat this speech that I'm giving you to the next generation. The second quality I want to talk about is about fraternity. Africa has produced many great individuals, but all the great things about life are really the successes of groups and the successes of teams. I feel that for too many of us, if we have a picture in our minds, it's probably the picture of the Wimbledon men's singles final, in which you have Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, or some such person like that, holding his cup aloft and waving to the great crowds. Life is not like that. And it is our ability to build great teams, to form great partnerships, to not allow ego to get in its way that will determine how successful we are. I have seen in my time too many great initiatives spoiled by ego, I have seen too many great ventures become shattered, ostensibly by differences of strategy, but really by individual differences. My father's generation saw the state as the engine of growth. The state was the be-all and the end-all. They sought to serve the state, and they believed that the state would transform Africa. They were mistaken in many senses, and years of political instability, coups d'etats, revolutions, ensured that my generation left the state. Maybe I'm being generous in saying we left the state. Maybe I should say we fled the state, or we retreated from the state, makes us sound a little bit better. And we instead argued that we would seek to develop our countries by our actions in the private sector. I didn't agree entirely with Francis Daniel's last presentation, but I thought it was an excellent presentation, because I think that there are many paths to development. And my view is that while the collapse of Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union showed that a model of development that is entirely run by the state has its problems, I also think that what has happened in the last few years in the financial centers of the world have shown that the free market, that economic liberty also has its problems and its issues, and that we therefore need to revisit these issues. And for those of us in Africa in particular, we need to reclaim the state. We need to populate the state. And the speech that was made yesterday by, I think, Tonya, I very much liked, because in the words of an old Greek philosopher, if great and intelligent people refuse to be involved in public affairs, then they are condemned to be ruled by fools. We must not, and we cannot take the state as if it is an embarrassing stepson or stepchild. We need to see the state as an integral part of our country and of our existence. And some of us, and many of us, need to work in the state, need to be part of the government, because only if bright and intelligent people join the government will we have the conditions that make business successful. So what I say is that as necessary as it is for there to be in this room the Bill Gates of the futures, so is it necessary that amongst you are the Barack Obamas of the world as well. I envy you because I think that you're going to live in very, very exciting times. I had most of my career in the 1980s and the 1990s, and I did as best as I could. I want you to be humble in your character, but I really want you to be arrogant and ambitious in your dreams. I want you not to live ordinary lives, but in the words of the great English poet, I want you to seek to be extraordinary and to seize the times. I want you not to seek to be somebody because you are already people. I instead want your ambition to do something. I wish and I hope that it is not your prayer to simply get to the top of the world. I hope that your prayer and your ambition is to change the world and to be on top of that changed world. Thank you very much.